being broadcast on KNWT Channel 8. You have the X106 Sports Crew here with you. Austin McNorton, Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier here with you live from the Bearcat Pavilion just outside of Bearcat Stadium on a beautiful day, a windy day, a cooler day than what we had the last time for a great football game between the number 7 team in the nation, the Northwest Missouri State Bearcats, as they will be taking on the University of Central Oklahoma, a team that defeated the Bearcats last season in a road game down there in Edmond, Oklahoma. Bearcats looking for revenge today on Family Day here in Maryville, Missouri, in honor of Scott Boswick, former defensive coordinator of the Bearcats. You'll see a lot of red hats walking around today, black jerseys, black T-shirts. It's Bearcat game day. We have a great one. We have a lot of fans walking around us in the black, in the red hats. We have great food behind us. We're sitting here. We're hungry, but we're coming to you no matter what on KNWT Channel 8. So, Jacob, I'll start before we really dive into this matchup, before we get into previewing around the MIAA, before we pick our keys to the game, and before we get to watch the band play. The Bearcat Marching Band will be coming here later. Thoughts on just this atmosphere so far, just hours before kickoff, it's already packed.
In all honesty, it's a little bit different than that first game because, as you mentioned, the weather is a factor today. It's a little bit windy. It's cooler. You're seeing a lot more hoodies, a lot more jackets, but everyone's still ready to go, and everyone's here. Still about an hour and a half from kickoff, about an hour and 15. So, but you know, it's not necessarily as spread out as it was. You got people more in their little tailgate areas kind of huddling up just because it's a little bit cooler, but you look around and there's people everywhere getting ready for game day.
Now, Sam, you had a personal connection with what was going to be head coach Scott Boswick. So just what did he mean to this community as a whole?
I mean, he really meant everything to this community. He was one of the nicest people you would ever meet, sit down, talk to you, and he was all around just a great guy, and just the impact around here in the community that he had. I mean, it really shows with the amount of red hats that you see, that just the amount of those show you how much Scott Boswick had an impact on Bearcat Nation and Maryville as a whole, not just Northwest, but Maryville as a whole. Like, he was an integral part of the community and just an all-around great guy, and it was a terrible loss.
So now we are going to recap what happened last Saturday as the Bearcats traveled down to Joplin, Missouri in a Saturday night battle to take on a much improved Missouri Southern Lion team, and it was just an absolute shootout. The Bearcats picked off the Lions 6 times in a 66-34 victory down there in Joplin. So we look back to that game, and Jacob, I mean, when you look at this defense, they've capitalized on turnovers all year long, and you look at it, how can you take some of that momentum where you're playing, yes, one of the lower teams in this tough MIAA conference, but six interceptions. Regardless, that's impressive.
Yeah, you look at the concern this year's been in the secondary. You've had injury issues, and they stepped up in this game because Missouri Southern, they like to throw the football, and they did that. They threw it all over the field, and yes, there were 6 interceptions, but a lot of passing yards, and again, they put up 34 points. So, but in that kind of shootout, Southern throwing the ball across the field, and like you said, they've gotten a lot better this year. So to go out there, put up 66 points on that team, we've seen that in the past, but this is an improved Southern team, so they came out, they were ready to play. It was a weird game. It honestly was a weird game. You had some weird things happen. You saw the touchdown with Amani Donadell that should have been an interception that ended up on SportsCenter, but the game had a weird flow to it. But in the end, you had some changes there. You had Hohensie come in for a drive and change the pace of the game because Northwest, they came out firing, and Southern kind of reeled it back in. They came back, and then that play with Hohensie kind of opened it back up for the Bearcats.
So then we take it back to that game a little bit. The Northwest Missouri State Bearcats tied the MIAA record for interception pick sixes, as they're so well known, 2 of them, and they also tied a Northwest Missouri State program record with 6 in one game. And now we look to the offensive side of things, putting up 66 points. Amani Donadell, and what was one of the craziest interception to touchdown plays I think you'll ever see with Amani Donadell, number 8 on ESPN's top 10 plays. Sam, we look at the offense from that game, and I mean, if they are able to put up anything half of what we saw, 66 points, you got to be pleased as a head coach.
I mean, yeah, Rich Wright is definitely probably pleased with that offensive. I mean, anytime you get anywhere near to 66 points, you're happy. And you mentioned Amani Donadell had a big reception for a touchdown, but also you look at Justin Rankin, who also ran for over 100 yards again in a game where he just seems to pick up yard after yard in every game that he's been playing. And I believe the longest run he had was 41 yards. And so, they're incorporating him more into the offense. So, basically, just the Northwest offense is just on fire the entire game.
So if we see any of that today, it's going to be a great one. So we're going to take a quick break here on KNWT Channel 8. When we come back, we're going to give you our keys to the game. We're going to highlight some of the players here that are going to be significant impacts both for the Broncos and for the Bearcats. You are tuning in to KNWT Channel 8, the Student Media Tailgate Show.
Welcome to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, John Walker, and once again, this week we have a show here at Sports. To kick things off this week, Northwest football was in action last Saturday against Missouri Southern. The Cats worked out the Lions and finished the game winning 66-34, and as always, we were there to catch the highlights. Guys, look at this. This is an offense that wanted to start fast. Just 2 plays into the game, and Braden Wright hooks up with Amani Donadell for a 66-yard touchdown, and I'd say that's a pretty quick start for the Cats, in my personal opinion. But then you go forward a little bit in the game, and this defense was ball hawking all game. There you see right there, Jarrell Green jumps the route, able to take that one back to the end zone. That was one of 6 Bearcat interceptions on the night. You see Jake Park there, taken down by Deja Vu, Zach Howard. That's Howard's 3rd sack in as many games for the Bearcats. Now, guys, here's arguably the play of the game. There you see Mike Hohensee, the trick play, lob downfield to Amani Donadell, and it comes up. Donadell's able to cross the goal line. Da-na-na, da-na-na. That one made SportsCenter top 8 play. Now you see another pick 6 there from Brandon Day. That would top things off for the Bearcats on the evening.
Routines are common ground in the world of sports. Student athletes have to balance schoolwork, practice schedules, and extracurricular activities. With the football season in full throttle, first-year equipment manager Tucker Peavy is on a strict routine as well.
So for a game day, we'll get here around 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll set up the field. We have all of our road trunks, kicking nets. We'll have the locker room set up already, so we'll have some jerseys on pads, game pants in lockers, make sure everybody's helmets are cleaned up, face masks are cleaned up, decals are cleaned up. After the game, that's where the fun begins. So game laundry, we're here about 3-4 hours after the game, and then we'll come in Sunday morning and knock out all the loops, and then it's all back being guns up for Monday. Now we're in the routine now.
Peavy has also worked at the professional level, interning with the Baltimore Ravens in 2014 and another local team in Kansas City.
And then ever since, I've been with the Kansas City Chiefs in a part-time capacity with them and balancing both here in the Northwest and down in Kansas City with them. It's the best of both worlds.
But there's nothing like the family atmosphere at Northwest Missouri State.
I just love being around the players in the locker room, and everybody works together to achieve one goal, and that's to get a win on Saturday, and hopefully those wins add up until you're playing close to Christmas.
Peavy's goal was to get as close as possible to the game without actually playing it. He believes he's found his calling with Northwest football.
If you're doing the right thing with your life, work doesn't feel like work, and that's how it feels every day coming to work. And I enjoy it. Love it.
Reporting for Bearcat Update, I'm Darren Johnson.
And welcome back to the Student Media Tailgate Show here on KNWT Channel 8, being broadcast on Facebook Live as well. Austin McNorton, Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier here with you from X106. We are coming to you live outside the Bearcat tailgate zone here at the pavilion just outside of Bearcat Stadium for the number 7 team in the nation, the Northwest Missouri State Bearcats. Here on Family Weekend, it's game day in Maryville, which means this place is crazy as the Bearcats will be taking on the Broncos of Central Oklahoma, a team that beat Northwest Missouri State last season 31-21 on the road in Edmond, Oklahoma. And today, in honor of Scott Boswick, former defensive coordinator for the Bearcats, we're seeing a lot of black t-shirts, as that was the one thing that he wanted once he was going to become head coach, was we're getting black jerseys. The Bearcats got black jerseys, and he always wore his signature red hat so the defense could see him from the sideline. We're seeing that a lot today, but also a very unique thing today for the Bearcats on the field today. Because of their jerseys, they will be having a red paw, and Jacob explained this a little bit because this is a really cool deal that this what would we say, equipment managers for the Bearcats have implemented?
Well, it's really cool. Every year you see them bring something new to it at Family Weekend and Family Day. And on the helmets this year, you've got that red paw like it normally is, but they have, kind of overlaid a image of Scott Boswick into that red paw. So it means a little bit more. You won't really be able to see it from the stands just because it's kind of overlaid. You'll see the logo, but if you ever get a look at these helmets up close, you'll be able to see that overlaid in the logo.
So now we are going to give our full preview of today's football game, as well as giving our keys to the game and our players to look out for. So we look at this matchup today, and is there a little bit of an edge today, Sam, for the Bearcats? They're feeling good, winning their third straight ball game to start the season, and maybe a little bit of from those juniors, from some of those sophomores from last season that traveled down to Edmond, watched the team lose for a rare occasion of this football team losing at all. Is there a little bit of extra momentum, a little extra fire in that locker room right now for this Bearcat football team?
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a revenge game for Northwest. Going down, no one expected them to lose in Edmonton, and they did. And so, you look at this team, they saw that they lost, and also it's Family Weekend, honoring Scott Boswick. There's going to be a lot of fans around here. There's already a lot of people here, and there's going to be a lot more in Bearcat Stadium. They're going to be hyped up for this game, and the players are too. So I think just adding all those, that's what is into there, and given how difficult it is to play here at Bearcat Stadium, I mean, it's going to be very tough for UCO to come in here and get a win.
Absolutely. The Bearcats hold an 8-3 lead all-time against the Broncos of University of Central Oklahoma. The last time that the Broncos won here in Maryville was back in 1992 on September 5th, and they have not won in this stadium since they joined the MIAA. So back to that win in 1992, they were not a part of the MIAA conference yet. What kind of things can the Broncos do today to get that edge over the Bearcats? It's going to be tough.
They've got to find something on the defensive line. And going through this team, the thing that stuck out to me is on the defensive side of the football, the Broncos have not got a quarterback sack this season. They're struggling to stop the run as well. They've got a really good pass defense. They're leading the MIAA in pass defense. Their rush defense, however, is struggling though. So it's going to be about that defensive line, those four guys up front. They've got to be able to get some pressure, whether that's on Braden Wright or kind of plug the holes for Justin Rankin, because if Justin Rankin's able to find open space, it's going to be a long day for Central Oklahoma.
And then for you, Sam, in terms of some players to watch out for on either side of football. Let's start with Northwest Missouri State. Who's one key player today for the Bearcats?
Well, Jacob already mentioned him once, Justin Rankin.
Yep.
Jacob mentioned that UCO's defense, run defense, is not one of the better in the MIAA, and so I think Justin Rankin should capitalize on that. And Northwest does have a very good offensive line. They plug holes for him very well, and so I'd look to see Justin Rankin have a bid day.
I think that's very possible. 2 out of 3 games so far in this season for Justin Rankin. He has topped the 100-yard mark, going back to Missouri Western, where he put up 130 yards against the Griffins, and then last week against Missouri Southern, a high-performing offense, he put up 150 yards offensively. So then I'll start with you, Jacob. Let's go with the Broncos side of things. Who's a player you're looking out for that could cause some problems for the Bearcats today?
It's the quarterback position, and the reason being is...
And I like how you said position not player.
You're going to see 3 different guys at quarterback today. The first 2 games, Will Collins got the start. You go back to last week with Lincoln, it was Keats Calhoun that got the start. But then Chandler Garrett, he's also been into that game, and you bring some quarterbacks in, kind of like the Bearcats. They'll bring Hohense in as that backup role to kind of change the pace of play. The Broncos, they'll bring in Chandler Garrett, kind of run the football, run some read zone options there on the offensive side. But with Collins and Calhoun, you're going to see both of them out there. Calhoun had a really efficient game last game. He went 16 for 19 out there with a couple touchdowns against Lincoln, so a good game for him. So it's the quarterback position and understanding the different nuances of each quarterback you're going to see today.
And so then I'll go with a defensive player, and I'll go with a Northwest Missouri State defensive player. I'm going to go with Blake Bayer. He leads the junior safety for the Bearcats, leads the team in tackles. He has 14 solo tackles in the first 3 games of the season. And in terms of that 3-headed monster for the quarterback position for the Broncos, he's a guy who I think can make some significant plays, reading passes, jumping in front of passing lanes, as all of these Bearcats tend to do, making tackles at the line of scrimmage. scrimmage. I think he could be a significant piece in today's game. And then we look at the keys for today's game, and I'll start with you, Sam, and we'll go with the Broncos again. What would you say some of their keys to the game are in trying to stop the Bearcats here at home?
We're trying to stop the Bearcats. I mean, first off, you got to stop Justin Rankin. I mean, the rush defense has got to be there. Plug the holes. Don't let them get into open field. And also, on the impact side of the ball, for the passing game, you got to lock down Amani Donadell out of everyone. He's got big play potential, as we saw in Missouri Southern and some other games in the season. So I think they lock in on those two players, really, and they got a good shot of limiting the Northwest offense.
And then, Jacob, we'll go with you. For the Bearcats, what are some keys to the game here at home?
It's going to sound simple, but play for a four-quarter football game. Because if you don't, Central Oklahoma is going to be right there. And I say that because you look at the fourth quarter for both of these teams. They have been dominant. The fourth quarter has been dominated by the Bearcats over their opponents. Central Oklahoma, they've done the same thing. So if you leave Central Oklahoma in this game, or if Central Oklahoma, if they let the Bearcats hang around it, if they come out and they're ready to play, these are fourth quarter teams. They like to put games away late. So it's get off to that quick start and then play a four-quarter football game.
I'll give you some stats because that's kind of where I was headed to. In the fourth quarter, both of these teams have been pretty dominant this season. Northwest Missouri State has outscored all of three of their opponents in the fourth quarter, 49-14. But then you look at the University of Central Oklahoma side of things. In the fourth quarter, they have outscored opponents 63-9. Whoever wins the fourth quarter today wins this. It's like kind of every game. Whoever wins the fourth quarter wins the football game. But today especially, both of these defenses have been playing electric. They've stepped it up. Maybe we can even look at side of things of saying who comes out in the second half to start the third quarter. Neither team has been spectacularly dominant in the third quarter. Northwest Missouri State, for example, has been outscored in the third quarter 23-20. So you look at it, maybe it's starting out right in the third quarter, not waiting for the fourth quarter to say, okay, now we're finally getting into a rhythm. Get it going early. And I think some of those quarterbacks that Jacob mentioned, Justin Rankin, that you mentioned, Sam, are going to have a significant impact on today's game. In terms of coaching philosophies a little bit, let's start with head coach for University of Central Oklahoma is Nick Bobeck. He's a alum of the Broncos in his 8th season, going against head coach Rich Wright, who inherited the program due to the passing of Scott Boswick. So we look at the head coaching matchup today. What are some things when you look at Nick Bobeck, defensively, offensively? What's the scheme today for the Broncos?
Offensively, you've got to find some room to run. Northwest is the #1 rush defense in the MIAA. You've got to open up that running game a little bit. You don't need to be spectacular. You don't need to run for 200 yards. Northwest doesn't give up a lot of 100-yard games, but you get in that 80-yard range, so it opens up the pass game. That's where Northwest has struggled this year. Nowhere near that #1 mark in terms of pass defense. So if you're Central Oklahoma, you kind of want to exploit that weakness. You got to get your guys open downfield, find the middle of the field. That's where we come back to 2 weeks ago against Washburn. They were finding guys open in the middle of the field all game long. So if you're Central Oklahoma, you go look at that, and you got to be good in the pass game today. But the key is, can you win the line of scrimmage? You don't have to be dominant, but you got to be effective.
And then, Sam, for you, head coach Rich Wright, scheme against a team that he lost to last season on the road. What are some changes that you think he makes against the Broncos this season?
Honestly, you're sitting undefeated right now, 3-0. I don't think you got to change much. Maybe a little tiny defensive schemes. Maybe maybe put in some new secondary schemes to stop their passing game. They do have 3 good quarterbacks that can throw the ball, so look out for that. But as for like the front 7, I don't think you have to change much. Sam Perkins is very good on the defensive line, and so those guys are gonna get tackles, plug up running lanes if they do try to run the ball. But I think the key is gotta stop the pass, because that's what Northwest hasn't been able to do very much this season.
Absolutely. So when we come back, we're sitting here waiting for the Bearcat marching band to come by, as are the fans. They're really starting to pile in here. When we come back, we are going to go around the MIAA rather. Look at some of the other teams that are playing today as well. It's a high-scoring league. We're going to preview that coming up. You're listening to the Student Media Tailgate Show on KNWT Channel 8 Facebook Live.
I'm Jenny James, and this week on Walk the Line, we are joined by Bearcat football player Sam Phillips. Sam, thanks for joining us in here.
No problem.
I know it's raining outside, not your usual atmosphere, but we're making it work.
Yep.
All right, you ready to walk the line?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Sam, Kind of give me your emotions right now. You were named the MIAA Defensive Player of the Week. What are you feeling with that?
I don't know. It's an awesome honor. You know, I feel blessed to be able to win that honor, but at the same time, I gotta keep my head down, just keep working, just get back to practice and do what I can.
What was it like that first play there where you scored your first touchdown? Getting the ball from your brother who was going down, being sacked, he pitches it off to you and you run it in. What was that like?
It's just one of those things that you'll never forget. Like we'll always talk about that moment. I don't know, it was just really cool, and I'm glad it happened.
What has it been like to be on the same team again as your brother, which probably hasn't happened since high school?
Yeah, it's just kind of been the same thing. You know, it's real special. Not a lot of people get to do that, you know, play football with their brother. And so I guess I'm just going to enjoy it while I can and make the best of it.
Do you feel like your leadership role has kind of changed this past year with, you know, seeing more playing time and being on the field more?
Yeah, I'd say I've picked up a little bit of a leadership role. Just kind of like in practice, bringing younger guys along and kind of showing them how to practice and stuff like that. So,
how else would you say you go about that leadership role? I know you mentioned just younger guys and helping them in practice, but how else, like maybe outside of practice, would you help?
Just kind of being vocal on the field and the weight room a lot. That's kind of what it comes down to, is just like we're all trying to be leaders on the team. So if people are talking and, you know, keeping the energy up, then usually everything goes well.
Kind of give me a recap of what you saw through your eyes last week against Missouri Western. Really close game there in the third and fourth quarter, but you guys came out with the win. So what were you kind of seeing through your eyes?
We started off with our game plan and all, and made some adjustments, but sometimes it just comes down to execution. Mm-hmm. So next week, or this week, I guess, we're going to have to execute a lot better and hopefully not let them score 35.
What are you seeing from Washburn? Maybe like what are you guys expecting from them?
Well, they're a big team. They always play us physical, play us hard. So we just got to come out, like I said, just execute what we planned for, and hopefully we get the dub.
Is it hard to kind of keep yourself focused on, you know, who's coming up this week versus looking ahead at the MIAA of Fort Hays going down last week? Is it hard to kind of just stay like that tunnel vision?
Not really. Coach likes to take it 1 week at a time. So every week we're trying to go 1-0, and if we can do that, hopefully we can.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week on Walk the Line. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best of luck Saturday. That's all we have for right now. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We have more to come on Bearcat Update.
All right, thank you, Jenny James, and welcome back to the Student Media Tailgate Show here on KNWT Channel 8, coming to you live on Facebook. We are live from the Bearcat Tailgate Zone here at the Pavilion. Austin McNorton, Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier, right outside of Bearcat Stadium for the Northwest Missouri State Bearcats are playing host to the University of Central Oklahoma here on Family Weekend. A lot of black, a lot of red hats in honor of former head coach, former defensive coordinator Scott Boswick. And now we are going to go quickly around the MIAA before the Bearcat Marching Band is going to be showing up here, and we will be showing that to you also on KNWT Channel 8. So we're going to go around the MIAA, look at some of the games that are going to be going on during the Bearcats game, even before the Bearcats game. So kicking off just shortly before the Northwest Missouri State game, which will be kicking off at 1:30. You can tune into the Northwest game on KZLX 106.7 The X with myself, Jacob Blair, and Sam Steinmeier on the call for that. And then quickly before that, it'll be the Washburn Ichabod will be traveling to the University of Central Missouri, a team that's also undefeated, 3-0, a team that Northwest Missouri State beat in Washburn just 2 weeks ago. This league right now is just crazy in terms of offensive statistics. When we look at the University of Central Missouri, number one in the MIAA in terms of scoring. Jacob has some of the breakdown because, listen to this, it's pretty unbelievable.
So yeah, the MIAA this year is insane because UCM, they're at the top of the MIAA, over 62 points per game scoring. You look at the rest of the MIAA, Northwest at about 49, they're second. You go to Fort Hays, which we'll get to their game a little bit later, averaging 29 points per game. That's a pretty good offense. They're 10th in the MIAA. 10th. There's so many teams averaging upper 30s, lower 40s that for some reason this year this league has decided to have just the whole league is offensively exploding. I don't think it's necessarily a downgrade in defense. It's just offenses have become so advanced. They're able to put up points this year. Maybe as it gets colder, we might see that drop, but right now, points are just flying around the scoreboard. And for the Washburn-UCM game, I don't know if Washburn's going to be able to keep UCM from scoring a bunch more points again.
And then we look at today's game, Northwest Missouri State. That's the second game in today's schedule of MIAA conference games. Playing host, 1:30 kickoff. We look at the next game, 2 p.m. kickoff between Missouri Western State taking on at home the Northeastern State University, who have gone 0-3 on the season. Mo West maybe a little bit better than we expect. They played UCM really tough. They played Northwest Missouri State really tough on the road today. What do you like so far from the Griffins this year, Sam?
I mean, I like how everyone kind of wrote them off as one of the worst teams in the MIAA, and they're proving to people that, hey, we're for real. We can, hang with the big guys. I mean, they took the lead going into the fourth quarter against Northwest. That's not easy to do. And, they gave Northwest a scare, and they've just been competing really well, playing good football. And, I'd look for them to, maybe not this year, but in the next few years, get right up into the upper echelon of MIAA teams. And
now we look at the game kicking off at 6 p.m. tonight. Emporia State will be traveling to Jefferson City to take on another 0-3 team in the MIAA, a newly found football team in Jefferson City, Lincoln University, and this is a team in Emporia State who's got off to a 1-2 start. Some of the bottom tier teams here in the MIAA, but regardless, some teams that can probably make some noise, as this conference is always tough no matter who you're playing.
We've seen from Lincoln that they're struggling right now. We've talked about how they're back into the MIAA, restart their football program. It's going to take some time to get that worked out. So for Emporia State, this is an opportunity to come back, get to 500, kind of have a momentum-building game. The worst thing that can happen for Emporia State here is to go there and play a tough game with Lincoln. But Lincoln's going to be ready to play. When they get teams at home that they can beat, because as you said, right now these are two of the back half of the MIAA. It's going to be an interesting game to see if Lincoln's ready to come out and play. They've got some of those woes figured out. Every game they play, they're going to get better. As we've mentioned, again, they're back in the MIAA. So Emporia State, they've got to come out, get the job done there, take care of business, but we'll see what Lincoln does.
And the next game, also, this one will be kicking off at 7 p.m., so we keep getting later. Missouri Southern will be traveling to Hays, Kansas to take on Fort Hays State University. A surprising team in Fort Hays State, as they were picked to win the MIAA in the coaches poll, and Northwest Missouri State was picked to win the conference in the media poll. 1-2 to start the season. They play host to a much improved Lions team that Northwest Missouri State defeated last week. In terms of Fort Hays State, Sam, is it a must-win game from here on out?
I think so. I mean, you already got 2 losses. I mean, that's with all the good teams in Division II. It's going to be tough to make a playoff push. I mean, certainly it's maybe all but eliminates them from MIAA championship contention, because maybe you don't see Northwest or Central Missouri or a team like that losing 2 games, maybe 3. So it is a must-win game from here on out, because, I mean, if they don't get the win, there may be
and especially looking at our especially looking at our final team here in the MIAA, the Pittsburgh State Gorillas will be traveling to Kearney to take on University of Nebraska Kearney. 3-0 on the season, also with UCM and Northwest Missouri State. Pitt State, this is a team Northwest will see in Arrowhead this year, also putting up a lot of points, just like these top 3 teams that we've been seeing pretty consistently. A tough place to play, though, and a tough team to go against with the triple option in Nebraska Kearney.
And Nebraska's one of those teams that for the longest time in the MIAA, they've just kind of caused some issues. They can come out and they can beat you. If you're not ready for that different style of play they're going to give you, that they can win. So Pitt State, you can't overlook them. They're not someone that's going to challenge for the top of the MIAA. They're going to be right there. They're picked to be 6th, 7th, but they could cause problems. So for Pitt State, you've got to stay there. You've got to get the wins, because you're going to have to go play some of these other top MIAA teams. You've got Northwest coming up later. So the battle right now, you mentioned 3-0 teams in the MIAA, UCM, Pitt State, Northwest. they're fighting to maintain the top there, because if you're Fort Hays and you've already lost 2 games, now you're playing catch up the rest of the season. You want to stay up in front of everybody, hold that top spot, especially because there's only 7 spots in this region come playoff time. A lot of times you only see 2 MIAA teams. Maybe you can sneak 3 in there, but you don't want to drop a game, especially with how good the MIAA is this year.
And now, while we are waiting for the Bearcat Marching Band to arrive in front of a great crowd already showing up here at the Bearcat Tailgate Zone just outside of Bearcat Stadium, Austin Norton, Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier here with you on KNWT Channel 8. So before the band gets here, we are going to give our final preview of today's matchup between the number 7 team, Northwest Missouri State, and the University of Central Oklahoma Broncos. So we look at it, both offenses have been performing pretty well. I mean, we look at Braden Wright, for example. Let's talk about him and his dynamic that we've seen so far, with Hohensie also coming in some unique special packages. Braden Wright, for the 2nd consecutive week, going back to Missouri Southern, and Washburn, the sophomore quarterback, threw for another career high in passing yards, 289 yards on 18 of 33 throughout the game, and he connected on a touchdown throws to Donadell, Alec Tatum, and LaTroy Harper. This is their quarterback right now that in his sophomore season we expected to see a lot of improvement. We're seeing a lot of improvement. What do you expect to see between him and Hohensie? What kind of special packages do we see those two kind of run for those who don't know?
We've seen this year. Last year you saw a lot of quarterback runs from Braden Wright. That has been scaled back this year. You still see a couple read options. You still see some quarterback draws. But overall, he's dropped back more into that pocket passer role, or he can get out of the pocket, and he's hurt teams that way. But there's less quarterbacks runs. When Hohensie comes in, that's the opportunity to have a rushing quarterback, and you can do some different things, and we've seen that this year with some trick plays, a lot of motion plays, kind of like you see with the Kansas City Chiefs offense, where there's a lot of guys moving around. When Hohensie comes into the game, there's a lot of that kind of shadow motion where you got guys running across the field just trying to confuse people, and it's worked thus far this year. But within that, I think with the struggle on the other side of the football for Central Oklahoma and rush defense, the ball is going to go to Justin Rankin a lot today. You're going to see him pick up a lot of carries.
So we might not see as many yards and stats from Braden Wright.
He might not have to throw the football today. If you're the Bearcats, you want to feed your running backs, Strayhorn, Rankin. I think we're going to see a lot of those two today.
And then we look at, and you kind of talked about just how many weapons Braden Wright has to throw to. 12 different Bearcats have found the end zone this season. That's an impressive feat. I mean, we have a lot of transfer students, Caden Davis being one of those that we saw here. Bearcat Stadium's getting to the end zone. Obviously, Imani Donadella's got in there several times. Sam Phillips, Alec Tatum, some guys defensively. So when you look at it defensively, Sam, and trying to stop these guys, I know we kind of talked about the Bearcats looking for those turnovers. We saw that against Missouri Southern, a Northwest Missouri State program record of 6 interceptions, and they are tied for the lead in all of NCAA Division II with total interceptions on the season. Is this a team in Northwest Missouri State that offensively, when you're Central Oklahoma, you're maybe a little more hesitant to throw the football or very cautious in every single read? Does that lead to more sacks today for the Bearcats?
I mean, it could. You got good rushers. I mean, you mentioned Sam Phillips. He's good. He can get to the quarterback. Sam Perkins on the line for this Northwest defense. I mean, they got a good front seven. So if, say, the Central Oklahoma quarterback, whichever one they put in, is taking a long time to get his reads, maybe nobody's open, that'll definitely open up for the Bearcats to get a lot of sacks today, and you could potentially see that.
And it's going to be a great matchup here today. Again, the number 7 team in the nation, the Northwest Missouri State Bearcats, playing host to the University of Central Oklahoma, a team that beat the Bearcats last season on the road in Edmond. It's Scott Boswick Memorial Day. It's family weekend here. We're seeing a lot of red hats, a lot of black t-shirts. You're going to see the Northwest Missouri State Bearcats wearing their black jerseys and the red paw on their white helmets. A sweet look, we might add. And so the band is approaching, so that'll do it for us here on KNWT Channel 8. For us three anyway, we're going to let you guys get to watch such an incredible marching band that's approaching. Thanks for tuning in, watching with us on KNWT Channel 8. Austin McNorton, Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier. We're going up to the roof on X106. Tune in on KZLX 106.7. Thanks for listening to us here.
Welcome to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, John Walker, and once again this week we have a show jam-packed with sports. To kick things off this week, Northwest football was in action last Saturday against Missouri Southern. The Cats worked out the Lions and finished the game winning 66-34, and as always, we were there to catch the highlights. Guys, look at this. This is an offense that wanted to start fast. Just 2 plays into the game, and Braden Wright hooks up with Imani Donadell for a 66-yard touchdown. And I'd say that's a pretty quick start for the Cats, in my personal opinion. But then you go forward a little bit in the game, and this defense was ball hawking all game. There you see right there, Jarrell Green jumps the route, able to take that one back to the end zone. That was one of 6 Bearcat interceptions on the night. You see Jake Park there, taken down by Deja Vu, Zach Howard. That's Howard's 3rd sack in as many games for the Bearcats. Now, guys, here's arguably the play of the game. There you see Mike Hohensee, the trick play, lob downfield to Imani Donadell, and it comes up. Donadell's able to cross the goal line. Da-na-na, da-na-na. That one made SportsCenter top 8 play. Now you see another pick 6 there from Brandon Day. That would top things off for the Bearcats on the evening. The football team will be back in action on Saturday for Family Weekend when they take on Central Oklahoma. The Northwest women's soccer team is looking to rebuild this year after a hard-fought 2018 season, and with lots of new faces in the freshman class, there's plenty of talent to work with. Our reporter Sydney Garner caught up with Coach Mark Gordon and freshman phenom Caitlin Case. Sydney?
The Northwest women's soccer team started their season off with a tie. Coach Mark Gibson continues to make changes for this season as they adapt to the new faces on the team.
Our preparation really started in July. A lot of the girls came in to do a summer course and work with our strength and conditioning to help build a good camaraderie and culture. And leading into our first scrimmages, we've learned a lot. We have a lot of new faces on the team, so we're continuing to prepare each time for each of our matches and still learn new things.
With the new faces on the team, freshman Caitlin Cates continues to show her strengths moving forward in the season, becoming a prominent scorer.
Individually, I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm leading in goals right now with 4, which is a pretty good feeling, but I couldn't do that without my team. So we're doing really good, working hard on and off the field. We communicate really well. We're hard workers, so it really pushes everybody.
Caitlin Case, we brought her in, and she is generating a lot of opportunities off the bench for us. She comes in as a sub generally in her role in her first 4 collegiate games. She has scored in 3 of them. She has 4 goals on the season and is leading the team right now.
The team has already made significant improvements and is excited to see where the rest of the season will take them. For Bearcat Update, I'm Sydney Garner.
Thanks, Sydney. We are going to take a quick break, but stick around. We've got more Northwest sports coming up as you watch Bearcat Update right here on KWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. On this week's segment of Walk the Line, our analyst Jenny James was able to interview Northwest Volleyball's junior setter Maddie Ahrens. Jenny?
Thanks, John. This week on Walk the Line, we are joined by Bearcat volleyball setter Maddie Ahrens. Maddie, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You ready to walk the line?
Yep.
All right. So, Maddie, you were named a couple weeks ago the MIAA Specialist of the Week. Kind of give me your feelings on being named that and receiving that honor.
Obviously, when I heard it, I was pretty excited, but just one thing that I keep in mind in those moments is that award or that acknowledgement is really just to my coaches and just like my team and how they are able to just put me in positions to be successful and to get that acknowledgement. So I'm honestly just thankful that I have them to bring me up in those moments, and then for me to receive that acknowledgement, I was pretty grateful.
In what ways would you say that your coaches and teammates have helped you kind of receive those recognitions?
Well, obviously I work really close with Coach Amy Worth, and just the passing, the defense, and like we have put so many hours into our defense and to our serve receive, and just the ability for them to put me in a position to be successful is really awesome, and especially early in the season, it's really just exciting, and we have a lot of work to do, but just to get that acknowledgement is really cool, and it just goes to show like how we are getting 1% better each day. So
You guys have started the season off really hot, now ranked number 15th in the nation. Just kind of give me your thoughts what it feels like to start the season off hot like that and to be already ranked really high.
I would say it's like really cool to get that acknowledgement, obviously, but ranking, we don't really look too much into ranking just because it's just, obviously it's just a number, but it's really cool to get that, especially last year we went through our season, going neck and neck with teams that were ranked, and to get that acknowledgement is really exciting, but we are really focused on how we are getting better each day, like the process of everything versus like the result of the ranking. Yes, that's extra and that's awesome, but just knowing that we are doing our process, we are doing our systems each day is what's most important to us. And so, yeah.
Well, Maddie, that's all the time we have today on Walk the Line. We wish you the best of luck with your games coming up soon.
Thank you.
We can't wait to have you guys back here in October and home.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for right now, but we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We have more to come on Bearcat Update.
Once again, welcome back to this week's episode of Bearcat Update. The women's volleyball team competed last week on Wednesday, taking on Missouri Western. Cats played all 5 sets against the Griffins, eventually coming out on top and grabbing the win 3-2. On Saturday, the team traveled to Warrensburg in a top 15 matchup between the number 12 Jennies and the Bearcats, who came into the game at number 15. This time, the team was able to get it done in 4 instead of 5 and moved to 9-1 overall and 2-0 in the MIAA. Our reporter Nolan Brooks is going to break down the rivalry game against Mo West. Nolan?
A rivalry game between Northwest and Mo West always lives up to expectations, and the Northwest volleyball team was the next two featured in the rivalry matchup, and Northwest wasted no time getting out to a big lead. The first set would favor the Bearcats, 25-21, behind 9 total kills from Hallie Sidney and Jaden Ferguson. The second set was even more impressive, with a 25-12 victory from 7 more kills from Hallie Sidney. Heading into the third set, it was a 2-0 match point in favor of the Bearcats, but just when Northwest seemed to have it locked up, here comes Missouri Western. Thanks to impressive net play, they took set 3 28-26, with 6 different players getting blocks. The fourth set, much of the same. The Griffins come back to win 25-16, and they're right back in it. With a fifth set, the Bearcats would shut down the Griffins and win 15-10, winning the match overall 3-2. Thanks to 23 kills from Hallie Sidney, 58 assists from Maddie Aarons, and 5 aces from Maddie Aarons as well, the Bearcats improved to 8-1 overall, while the Griffins would fall to 6-3 overall. The ladies then took down 12th-ranked Central Missouri to improve to 9-1 and 2-0 in MIAA play. And when that comes to the poll decisions, it looks really interesting to see if the Bearcats will squeak into the top 10 or be just outside of top 10. For Bearcat Update, I'm Nolan Brooks.
The women's soccer team had some hard-fought games on Friday and Sunday. They started off Friday at home with a loss against Central Missouri 3-1, with Bree Wawiorka scoring the lone goal for the Cats. On Sunday, the team unfortunately was unable to finish out the weekend with a win and fell to Missouri Western. Cats will be back in action on Friday against Missouri Southern as they start a month's worth of away games. To wrap up last week's sports, the men and women's cross-country teams competed at the Missouri Southern Stampede in Joplin.